The film begins with two wizards fighting somewhere in the mountains. One wizard was kind and the other was evil. A good wizard came to fight for his girlfriend who was kidnapped by an evil wizard. Both wizards were very worthy rivals and their battle was very long. The evil wizard's name was Chernobyl and he was not going to give up. The good wizard was much faster and more agile. He caused a large tornado that immediately sucked Chernobyl. The villain was defeated and the good wizard went to save his girlfriend. He tried to approach her, but the girl said it was a trap and suddenly a magic circle formed around him from which magical spirits got out and grabbed him. He was able to get out from this cursed circle. When suddenly he noticed that he had aged and fallen from impotence, it turns out that the spirits took away his youth. Chernobyl flew up and began to brag that he was the most powerful wizard. With the help of a girl, he was able to drain her strength, and now he was stronger. It turns out it was an ordinary scene that was shown in the city center by two guys, and people watched it with interest. Knights on horseback rode past them, and all the children ran away to look at them. Ruslan also dreamed of becoming a king, not a wandering artist. The show ended and Ruslan started cleaning up the stage, and his friends started writing a new script for their performance. Meanwhile, a princess named Mila was in the castle. Her father came to her. Mila complained to her father that she was already tired of sitting in the castle all her life and that she would like to be like an ordinary child who could travel and be friends with friends. But her father said that this would never happen and that it was time for her to get married. He said that if Mila did not find the groom by tomorrow, he would do it himself. They quarreled and the father left the room. At the same time, Ruslan was treating his neighbors with apples. He left the house when suddenly someone knocked him down and all his apples scattered. He was knocked down by knights who were rushing somewhere. Ruslan approached them and called them robbers because they behaved like bandits. The knights turned around and began to mock him like this, how he was an ordinary person and they were knights. They turned around and ran away. Evening came and Princess Mila went outside to find herself a worthy husband as her father advised her, but she did not have time to walk a few meters as robbers began to molest her. They wanted to steal her pendant that hung around her neck, but Mila was not going to give it away. She hit him and ran away, but the robbers did not lag behind from her and they ran after her. Mila tried to hide from them. She was running down the street when suddenly she bumped into someone. It was Ruslan who was walking home. Ruslan offered her his help, but Mila asked Ruslan to call real knights to save her from robbers, but Ruslan said that he was a knight and that he would save her. One of the robbers approached them and Ruslan was able to defeat him, but there was still one robber. Ruslan took out a sword, but his sword was of poor quality and immediately broke. But Ruslan did not lose his head and was still able to use ego. Ruslan was able to defeat the robbers and they were about to leave when suddenly one of the robbers whistled and 4 more robbers came to his aid. Ruslan would not have been able to overcome them and they ran. They were able to escape from them and Mila said that she had spent almost all her life in the castle. She could not travel and meet people. She said that she would like adventures and freedom. Then Ruslan invited Mila to show she liked the city. They climbed the highest tower and boarded an attraction that took them through the whole city, when suddenly they both broke and fell. But Ruslan specifically planned everything to impress Mila. They also visited the swing, and then they went boating. They had a great time together and it was good for them. They sat on the roof and began to meet the sunrise. Ruslan wanted to kiss her, but suddenly a large tornado appeared from somewhere and it sucked Mila. The tornado flew further through the city, and Ruslan chased him along the roof to save Mila. Ruslan struggled to catch up with the tornado and he succeeded. He caught up tornado and grabbed Mila by the hand, but suddenly someone's voice came from the tornado. It was the same evil wizard Chernobyl about whom they told in their scene. Ruslan could not hold Mila and let her go. Ruslan woke up from the fact that the king was waking him up. He asked where his daughter Mila was. Ruslan said that the evil wizard Chernobyl had kidnapped her, but everyone just laughed and no one believed. The king ordered the guards to put Ruslan in prison. The king turned to the people and said that whoever can bring Mila back will marry her. Meanwhile, the guards were leading Ruslan to prison when suddenly a bag of flour fell on them. It was Ruslan's bird that threw it on them to free Ruslan, and she did it. At the same time, some knights rode to save Princess Mila from the sorcerer. They all wanted to marry her. Ruslan came to his friend with whom he was arranging a show in the city center and told what had just happened. His friend's name was Nechter and he gave him a book in which there was a story about Chernobyl. Ruslan got behind his horse and rode along with Nechta to one creature who knew everything about the sorcerer Chernomir. Meanwhile, the knights did not know where to go to save Princess Mila, when suddenly they saw Ruslan galloping off somewhere and jumped after him because they thought he knew where to go. Ruslan had to overcome mountains, fields, and forests to arrive at his destination. They drove up to a large tree, but it was an unusual tree, and someone's house. They went into it and tried to find someone, but there was no one. Suddenly the door itself closed and immediately opened one of the walls and someone started coming out. He had a big shadow. Ruslan and Nechta thought that some kind of monster would come out on them, but an ordinary cat who was a scientist came out on them. Ruslan mocked him, and then this little cat turned into a huge monster. They started running away from him all over the house, and the monster tried to catch up with them. The monster began to drive the Nechta into a corner, and then Ruslan figured out how to calm this huge cat. He made a toy for cats with his own hands, and this monster began to play with it. The monster turned back into a learned cat, and Ruslan returned the book to the cat. Ruslan said that a Chernomir appeared in their city who kidnapped his girlfriend, and he wants to save her. The cat listened to him and said that he would help them. He opened an underground passage that led deep under the tree. The cat scientist said that Chernomir kidnapped some princess in love to replenish his magical power with the help of the power of her love. The cat advised him to turn to a character named Finn, but in order to find him, he needed to get to the country of the sorcerer Chernomir. The cat said that everyone who got into this country did not come back. The cat opened a portal in the form of an eye, and Ruslan and Nechta entered it. They found themselves in a very beautiful place, but they did not linger and went on. Meanwhile, Princess Mila woke up in some castle. The sorcerer Chernomir approached her and told her why he had kidnapped her. He would steal her power of love and turn Mila into a statue. Mila began throwing everything at him that came to hand. She took an invisible hat and became invisible. He fled into the depths of the castle. Chernomir revived the food and ordered them to find Mila. Chernomir went to his vault where the gold was stored. He had a fusion system that showed where Mila was. His voice assistant told him that an invasion had occurred in the world of Chernomir. It was Ruslan and Nechta. Meanwhile, the knights who were looking for Ruslan came to the learned cat. They knew that Ruslan did not leave this house, and it turns out that somewhere in the house there was a secret passage or portal. The knights began to threaten the cat, but the cat turned into a monster and scattered everyone around. But the knights were able to accidentally open a secret passage through which they were able to teleport to the country of Chernomir and were able to find traces of Ruslan, and now they were following him. At the same time, Ruslan was walking along the road when suddenly a canyon appeared in front of him through which he could not cross in any way. Ruslan remembered that the cat gave him one thing that was supposed to be useful to him in this world. It was ordinary beans. He thought that he needed to be planted in the ground and then he would grow a bridge over the canyon. I did, but suddenly the beans disappeared somewhere. It turns out that the ferret stole them. Ruslan and his bird chased after this clever ferret, and Ruslan eventually managed to catch him and took the beans. He asked the ferret if he knew how to get through the canyon, and the ferret said he knew. The ferret approached the tree and turned the button when suddenly a dragon skeleton appeared from the canyon through which it was possible to cross. Meanwhile, Princess Mila was able to get to the table where there were a lot of sweets, but when she took the cupcake, all the food came to life and was able to grab it. But Mila was able to throw them all off, but all the sweets began to attack her, and again Mila successfully coped with all. At the same time, the sorcerer from his source of power was gaining energy into his magic staff, with which he was able to summon a hellish golem. He wanted to set him on Ruslan and Nechta to destroy them. Ruslan found the cave they entered. When they entered, they saw that all the things in this cave were covered. They heard that one of the things was making sounds. They opened it, and under it sat the same Finn, to whom the cat advised them to come. Finn is the same kind sorcerer who fought with the sorcerer Chernomir, which was at the beginning of the video. Finn tried to escape from them, but they were able to grab him and tie him to a chair, and Finn said that all the power of Chernomir is in his beard, and if you cut it off, then all his charms will dissipate. He also told them to defeat Chernomir, then they will have to find a sword Claydnitz, which is guarded by a very strong monster. Finn told them how to find this place, and Nechta drew a map with which they will reach this place. They came out of the cave when suddenly a hellish golem came out at them. He was big and strong. Ruslan and Nechta began to run away from him. Meanwhile, the knights were walking through a terrible forest when suddenly Ruslan and Nechta ran past them, followed by a golem. They ran to such a point that the road ended in front of them and they fell from a great height. but they caught on a tree and returned back to the road where the golem was already looking for them. At the same time, Mila found a room in which there were statues of once living girls. Ruslan and Nechta were able to hide from the golem and went to the field where there was once a battle. After the battle there were a lot of skeletons and weapons. They went on and came out on a huge head that was in a dream. They woke her up and Ruslan asked, "Where the very sword with which you can destroy the Black Sea?" The big head showed. I told them that they could take him away if they could carry him away. They didn't understand anything when suddenly the warriors came to life behind them. Nechta hid in a chest, and Ruslan began to fight with the walking dead. There were a lot of them, but Ruslan was able to defeat them all. But that wasn't all. The dead were resurrected again, but Ruslan stuck a ferret in the big head. He felt tickled and sneezed with such power that all the dead were thrown far to the sides. Meanwhile, Mila tried to send letters to Ruslan, but the sorcerer did not let her do it. Suddenly the sorcerer Chernomer noticed how Ruslan and Nechta were passing by his castle. Ruslan and Nechta separated and Ruslan went down another passage to the castle. Suddenly Mila came out to him and Ruslan said that he had come to save her, but she told him that she did not want to leave here and that she did not love him. Ruslan was upset and began to leave, but it was not Mila, it was the sorcerer Chernomer who reincarnated into Mila, but Ruslan did not know this. Suddenly the infernal golem appeared again and attacked them while they were running away from him. The bird was able to get into the castle and take Mila's pendant. The bird brought Ruslan a pendant and Ruslan realized that when he met near the castle with Mila, she was not wearing a pendant and he realized that it wasn't her. Ruslan was able to defeat the golem. By this time, the knights were also able to reach the castle. Meanwhile, the sorcerer tied Mila and was about to pump the love power out of her, but Ruslan and Nechta broke into the castle and prevented him from doing it. But the sorcerer was not going to give up. He created a tornado that took Nechta away, but it did not affect Ruslan. Then the sorcerer Chernomer turned into a huge dragon and tried to burn Ruslan, but Ruslan's sword was magical and he did not let the fire to Ruslan. The dragon threw Ruslan on his back and took off and deliberately crashed into the castle to throw Ruslan off. But Ruslan was able to cut his wing and they landed on the ground where the dragon was able to knock out Ruslan. But Ruslan managed to cut off his beard and because of this all his charms disappeared and he turned back into a sorcerer. All the statues of women in his castle came to life and Finn regained his youth. Ruslan grabbed the sorcerer Chernomer, but Mila was still tied up in a magic circle. Ruslan went into this circle. He wanted to save her. The spirits started attacking him, but he was able to save Mila. But unfortunately the spirits grabbed him. Mila tried to save him, but suddenly the knights appeared and did not let them do it, so how they wanted them to marry her, not Ruslan. Mila put on an invisible hat and was able to defeat the knights. But Ruslan died saving Mila, when suddenly the wizard Finn appeared and he was able to resurrect Ruslan. Finn also met his girlfriend, who had been a statue for many years. Ruslan proposed to Mila and she agreed. Finn launched fireworks and they lived happily ever after.